keep that. Good, push out, push, 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 push. 5, 3, 2.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Bryce Markle-Amaral. I'm a competitive rock climber and just some random guy that likes making videos. So I recently just had my first pro level climbing competition, and within the weeks leading up to it, I met up with one of my sponsors, Sheldon at Variant Athletics. If you have any questions about any of these things or questions of your own, I'll list all of his contact information down in the description below. In this video, there's a lot of tips and different exercises for different parts of the body that could help benefit you in your climbing and just injury prevention overall. I went to Sheldon wanting to ask about my shoulders and then also my legs, so like hamstring areas. Shoulders because I, at least at first, thought that I was lacking in mobility, but you'll see what it actually is later. And then my legs because my legs are very weak. Specifically my hamstrings. So I wanted to see how I could prevent injuries when heel hooking and just ways to get more flexible within my hips and hamstring areas.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm Sheldon from Variant Athletics. So I got my buddy Bryce here. We're gonna check him out. He claims to have some shoulder, some hip stuff, some ankle stuff. So we're gonna assess him, check his range of motion. We're gonna put him through some exercises, really trying to ring him through the gauntlet here and see where he's at performance-wise, to see where we can find those deficiencies so that we can overcome that and make him stronger in the game.
All right, how do you want me to lay this?
So on your back. Yep.
Cool.
Here.
Oh, we got the fancy.
And then I'm gonna have you scoot over towards the edge over here, so your shoulder's kind of over there. Yep, good. Right, so really, I'm kind of thinking that you do have good range of motion. It might just be a shoulder stability thing. So teaching you how to keep a stable shoulder when you're challenged in dynamic positions is going to be the name of the game, right? Because if you're jumping and reaching for that next ledge, you grab onto it, now all that load's on your shoulder. The better you can control shoulder position when you're in that kind of sketchy dynamic range and you're trying to reach out for that, right? The stronger you have to be, one, but the more we can protect your joints and connective tissue and all that stuff, and that's kind of what we want to do here. So I'm just going to first start out, check your shoulder range of motion, and then from here we're going to check kind of strength and whatnot. Okay, so right here I'm just going to come down here. Let me know when you feel a stretch. So I'm not even going to go any further than that because that's really good. That's sufficient range of motion, right? So down here, I'm going to go into extension here. So let me know when you feel a stretch. This will be a little deeper in the shoulder. Yep, so that's good range of motion. Cool. Then I'm going to go here. I'm going to check your external. So we're going to come up here, pack the shoulder in and reach out. Let me know when you feel a stretch.
Starting to feel it, yeah.
Right there, okay. You feel a stretch in your chest, or is it more shoulder, would you say?
Just at the edge of the chest, like
edge
into
of the chest.
shoulder.
Okay. So we'll work on pecs here. Just relax. Any tenderness or tension or anything like that? No?
No, just in that location right as the chest hits the shoulder type deal.
Okay, I'm gonna give you your arm back real quick. I'm gonna take a note of this. And I'm gonna check internal here. Same idea. Relax here. I'm gonna give you your arm back. Internal and different range. Relax here. I got you. Okay, now we're gonna check that other side. I'll have you scoot over towards the edge over here.
I'm starting to feel it a little bit.
Where do you feel it?
Red line here.
In the groin?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to bring you right here, and I just want you to let this knee fall out to the side. You feel a stretch there at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
On the inside? Okay. Yeah. So right here.
This is something I've been trying to like stretch.
Do what?
Recently. I've been trying to stretch.
Yeah.
This opening
groin
motion. Yeah.
I'll show you some stuff for that.
Just cause like the technique for heel hooking and stuff is like, so you're gonna like open up the hips,
yeah,
and hook the leg, and then like kind of supinate the calf
so
a little bit,
like that,
yeah, and then you kind of like doing this motion, like
okay.
And sometimes you have to like pull where you're going, not just towards this way, but also like up. So you're pulling in like this motion as well.
You're pulling so out to in,
right?
Is what you're doing?
Sometimes you're pulling like this. Sometimes you're pulling like this.
Okay.
Those kind of things. Yeah.
Okay. So whenever you go in this direction here, right? Whichever area of tissue is shortening is the side that you're using. So you see, when I come out here, if I'm using my groin, right, as you turn out, you see it starts to lengthen out,
Right.
right? So it's not so much that you're using it here. What you're using actually is going to be your glute.
Right there.
When you hook in and you turn in, now you're starting to recruit they're called your hip adductors, right? You're starting to recruit these guys in. More specifically, when you're scooping that heel in, this is all your hamstring.
Okay.
So I would say the big power generators for a heel hook is going to be good hamstring strength, and then it's going to be good kind of like hip durability and strength, right? So glute strength in comparative to like the inside. So outside and inside strength as well as back strength, right? Whenever you kick out, which probably might be something that you have to do if you got to reach out, this is more quads, as you can see, right? So you can kind of see the muscle balances here, right? Top, bottom, inside, outside, which is going to be more so that glute recruitment. So that's kind of the whole hip strength complex in terms of rock climbing, right? That's the idea here, right? So when I come out here, right, now I'm going to test your hamstring mobility. Can you feel a little pressure? Yeah, buddy, you're using them, right? So there's that. Okay, and I'm gonna put this down here, nice and relaxed.
It's pretty cool because like just me describing it to you, like the movement, and then you're already like, okay, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Regardless if like how much experience you have of the sport, you're just like, I know the body.
Yeah, and that was the thing when I was in grad school. Everybody would always come up to me and like, oh, so like, what's your favorite sports pillow? I'm like, dude, I'm one of those guys. Like, I don't have a favorite team. I don't have a favorite sport. I'm just saying, it's like, but you're an athletic trainer. Like, I'm like, dude, like, I don't follow sports. I follow injuries. Tell me how you got hurt, right? And I'll tell you how to fix it. That's the idea, right? So, but I enjoy it, you know. So
it's pretty cool.
So same idea here, just nice and relaxed, right? And then we're gonna come up here, test hamstrings. Yeah, so this one isn't as tight. You're really using that right side, huh, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
so
I'm
come here.
right side dominant, and I also like, so I climbed a lot yesterday, and yeah, I feel it right
Yeah,
now.
a little bit.
And I have this like 3-year-long project that I'm working on outside, and it's like all right leg intensive for heel hooks and stuff. So that's why I've been trying to train.
Is it like a skill that you've been working on, or?
I've been trying to work on my heel hooks, and then like a little bit of mobility, but again, I just don't know too many things to do.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll show you some stuff before you get out of here. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right, so hips look good, and then the ankle stuff is kind of real simple. I'm just gonna test how your ankles move. So just relax here. I'm gonna test up. Okay. Yeah. Just relax here. So we got 4 directions of movement. When I pulled you up, that's dorsiflexion. This is plantar flexion. Relax here. This is inversion.
Yeah.
Right, and then this is eversion. All of which ranges of motion look pretty good. So I'm going to take you here into an unloaded 90-90, and then I'm going to test your ankle flexibility here too. So just relax. When it comes down to ankles in terms, just relax here, yep. When it comes to strength components involving the ankle, it's more so kind of balance and what we call proprioception, so like spatial awareness and awareness of where your body is in space and time, right? So some things that are really great, and when we talk about ankle stability, we're also including the foot here, right? So foot and ankle kind of work as one unit, even though they are kind of 2 different components, right? Your foot, you got a bunch of bones here, then it sits atop of this subtalar joint. So think of it like you got a ball, and you have your foot here, right? How your ankle gets mobility is through this subtalar joint, right? So you got your shin bone, you got your fibula bone here, right? Those sit on top of that talus, right? And everything below the talus is the rest of the foot. And that's kind of how your foot gets mobility, right? So when we do things like single leg balance, hip hinges, right? Hip airplanes, anything like that where we're starting to challenge foot balance and stability, we are also working on essentially ankle and foot strength. Right, so that's the idea here. Versus comparatively to like knee, we want to be thinking about quad and hamstring balances or imbalances, right? This is kind of like a muscle synergy, right? And then when we talk about hip strength, now we're talking about your glutes and your hip adductors, right? So that's kind of the muscle synergy relationship in terms of lower body, right?
So it's like the things that support those main connecting points.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. Right, so for right here, ankles look good. We'll check the balance, right? For your hip, it seems like you got some hamstring as well as hip adductor stuff, right? And then maybe we can even hit on glute stuff, right? And then for shoulder stuff, it's external pec stuff here, internal kind of bicep extension here, right? So here, you're on the right side, you're limited through coming up here and reaching out, right? Through the left side, you're limited through reaching down here, which is interesting, right? So you kind of have this oblique, right? They call it. You can look at this functional line right here, right? Functional line in combination with the spiral line. And if you just don't have to know anything about anatomy, just look at those blue lines, and these are essentially like muscle synergy lines of relationship in how the body likes to work, right? So these are functional patterns, right? Not just me doing a bicep curl, me functionally reaching out for that next ledge, and how I connect from my foot all the way to my hand.
So
how
does it kind of make sense that those are imbalanced like that?
Yeah, I mean, do you reach out more in a specific direction?
I mean, I guess there is that motion of kind of coming out like this that could occur.
How about on the left side? Would you say it's about even, or do you find yourself? I mean, you say you heel hook more on the right side, so I would imagine that if you're heel hooking, you're reaching out as well, right? That's the idea.
That's pretty cool,
right?
So like it's basically having opposites on the wall. So actually, one of my favorite moves is a lock off when you're in this position and locking off this side and reaching high.
There it is. See?
So it's pretty funny. Like, it's like getting called out for exactly what's happening. But I like the color coding.
It's a cool little system. All right, so we got our range of motion stuff here. We're gonna work on some soft tissue work. I'm gonna loosen up pec here. I'm gonna loosen up bicep here. Get the upper body feeling good. We'll work on some hamstring stuff. And then we'll slap on the machine. We'll do some muscle energy work, right? And that should be good to go. That should be the session. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, man. That backpack that you made, was that a project, or are you actually selling that?
It was a project.
Dude, that backpack is dope, man. Oh my god, that should be selling at the REI, dude. Man. So I'm just doing some soft tissue work right now. Like I said, you seemed really limited on the external, right? And it wasn't, when I asked you, hey, do you feel it more on your shoulder or your pec? You said, oh, I feel it more on my pec, right? The relationship here is that pec does cross the shoulder and connect right over here, right? So because you did feel more tension, and I can see already, you kind of have some, they call it hypertonicity, so you have some tone to the muscle when it should be pretty relaxed in this, position. I can see that there is tone and a little tension, so I'm just trying to loosen this up a little bit more, and then we're going to work on some stability stuff to kind of get the shoulder in line with this. So
even when you're doing this like massage stuff, like you know the directions that you need to press to.
Yeah. So it's following like fiber directions. So for like pec, right? Pec kind of striates in like a downward, and then it fends up, right? So whenever you see people doing like an incline bench press, they're actually working lower pec, where it's like, oh, I thought I'm working my upper pec. No, fiber direction dictates where, right? Kind of line of strain, right? So when you're doing an incline bench press, right? Striations go in this upward direction, whereas when you're doing a decline bench press, you're working more of that upper pec, so it's kind of in opposition of each other. Right? So really what I'm trying to do right now is just work on this pec tissue, right, which is kind of this whole line right here where I'm kind of pressing on. I can see it's turning a little red, which tells me there might be a little kind of inflammation in there, so we're just trying to break it up and just give you a little bit more mobility so it doesn't feel so tight when you're reaching out. Good option for us to utilize right now would be some cups, so I'm going to slap some cups on here. That's going to help kind of pull out some inflammation as well as alleviate tension in here. So
the octopus. So when did you start knowing that this was what you wanted to do?
I would say in like undergrad, when I found out what athletic training was. Like, this is something that I was always into. I'd spent some time in the military. I was in the Navy, and that's kind of where I started kind of my workout stint. And I'd always been into it. I started kind of with just like traditional bodybuilding stuff, strength conditioning, and then I found CrossFit. Through CrossFit, I found weightlifting, and then it kind of just all culminated to like what it is now.
Right.
I went to school, did the collegiate strength and conditioning route, and then it kind of came full circle when I started grad school and did the athletic training thing to kind of where I am now. It was something that I was always into. I just didn't know it was an actual profession, and when I found out it was a profession, even my wife, she was like, oh yeah, dude, like that's totally what you should be doing. Like, what are you doing right now?
Just didn't make the connection.
Yeah, like I thought it was physical therapy, and then I didn't necessarily like kind of how, not limited, like it was like, when you're like a physical therapy like volunteer or even like a student, you work with like a lot of geriatric kind of post-surgery people who aren't necessarily like motivated to kind of get after it.
Like there's necessarily goal other than I want to get back to being able to do normal tasks.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so this is kind of where like I enjoy what I do because I get to work with athletes and utilize my skill set with such. So you can notice I have the cups on here, and I put them on in the shortened position. So now when we come out and we reach, you get a little lengthening here. Now we're really working on lengthening the pec, just like that. You feel a little stretch in there.
Yeah.
Yep, and then try to reach out and straighten that arm. Right through here. Give me about like 6 reps. That's 2.
So you think that my shoulder mobility is pretty decent? It's more of just like strengthening those little muscles that.
Yeah. So shoulder stability, right? So like you got good mobility is the range of motion that you have, basically, right? So like how well can I move, right? Stability is how well you can keep that shoulder in, a stable position, right? How strong your shoulder is in overcoming ranges of motion, right? So like you have those people that are like, yeah, I can drop into a split. So it's like, okay, let me see you get out of it, right? It's like, and you see them just kind of roll over and like, I was like, okay. You don't really have a splits because you have no control when you get in that range of motion, right? So you have great mobility, but you lack stability because you can't even get out of it, right? So someone who has good mobility and stability will be able to drop into a splits and recover using their leg muscles and hip muscles.
Could it also, like, I guess when they're doing those splits and stuff, like, oftentimes they might use, like, gravity, right? So that's the force pushing it down.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think those same people would be able to, like, extend on their own?
Yeah,
all the way open. That's kind of what you're talking
about. That's
right?
the idea, right? Yeah. So
with.
The eccentric, they call it eccentric, which is muscle lengthening. The eccentric control one has, so like, can you slowly drop into the splits and have the control to let your hamstring lengthen out, or are you just dropping into it? It's kind of like those people who like do bicep curls and they're just kind of bodying it the whole time. It's like you're not really doing anything. You're just using gravity and momentum, right? The same idea. Someone who just drops into the splits, they're just using gravity to help them get there. But now they have no joint control. They have no proprioception, which is joint awareness of where they are. So they have to like roll over and just kind of kick their foot forward, right?
So you think in terms of climbing, like when I'm on the wall and just hanging off my shoulder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe that's where the mobility is there because I can just like be in different positions. But then if I just try and lift not on the wall and go into those positions, I struggle to push past it.
When you're on the bar, right, and you just kind of let yourself hang, what you're doing is you're essentially just hanging from the ligaments and connective tissue of your shoulder. Very bad, right? Think of it like a rubber band. You're stretching out the rubber band, and after so much time, that rubber band loses elasticity. Not just that rubber band increases potential to just fully tear and rip, right? So that's what you don't want, of course, right? So when you hang and you grab from it, if you need to like lax on the ligaments for a little while, like maybe that's a thing, especially as you get fatigued and you start getting in the higher level of fatigue, right? But you want to be as aware as possible to grab and to have control of keeping that shoulder in socket versus coming out here and hanging like that, right? Of course, if it's like something uber challenging, you're like, oh God, like I really got to put everything into it and you got to compromise a position. That's kind of the nature of the sport, right? Being an athlete, right, especially at an elite level, competitive level, it's not necessarily healthy, right? But you got to do what you got to do to get, to push the bar to that next level and see how that's the human performance aspect thing, right?
So it's like trying to limit the chances of injury in those moments that you have to.
You are riding the line. As a competitive athlete, you are riding the line to say, okay, like how much further can I push my body without getting injured, right? And the higher you go on that level, right, the more and more of a risk you take, but that's kind of the nature of it, right? So now we're going to retest that shoulder, right? And we kind of got it a little loosened up with the cupping, and I'm going to test this external position and then let me know kind of if you still kind of feel that same sensation in your chest, if it's less, better, worse, or the same.
I mean, much less, like I don't even feel it right now.
Like we're basically at a good end range where I was like, yeah, I'm not going to have to test your range of motion and you look good here. And even if I let go here, like tissue feels fine. So what I'm going to do to actually help with these cut marks is I'm going to put some tape on you. It's going to be a lymphatic taping, so it's going to help flush out the inflammation and help you heal up a little quicker. And then I'll also give you a little shoulder stability taping to keep that shoulder nice and healthy. So there's that. Cool. So something that you can do, like if you got a super friend, right? One that I like is called rhythmic perturbation. So right here, I want you to keep your shoulder back into the socket, right? I want you to scoop down. Good. And right there, hold that position right here, and don't let me move you. Good. Don't let me move you. Don't let me move you. I'm gonna come in different directions. Good. Don't let me move you. Good. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. Good. Keep it on. Keep it on. Keep it on. Good. Yep. Keep the arm long, but shoulder back. Keep scooping. 5, 3, 2, 1. Good. Let it go. Good job. Right. So you can kind of see how that challenge is, right? Because one, you're putting shoulder in the socket, but this is kind of a controlled environment. So sort of like how you'd be hanging, right, in an uncontrolled environment. The nice thing about this is you're in a controlled environment and we're controlling where the direction is coming from, right? So you're not anticipating, right? But I can say, okay, like, you know, now let's do it again. Scoop your shoulder down, hold your arm long, close your eyes now. And we're gonna go a little bit faster on this one. Good. Good. Push. Keep the shoulder on, keep the hand, keep the hand. Right? So now we've taken vision out of the whatchamacall, right?
Yeah.
The thing, right? Which makes it a little more difficult because now you're wondering, oh, where is he coming from? Where is he coming from? Oh, coming here. And as we go faster and faster, right, it becomes more and more difficult as you start getting fatigued. Okay, let it go. And as you start getting fatigued, it becomes more and more of a thing, right? So this is a good thing you can do. Another good one, yeah, let me show you some stuff. Let's come up real quick. We're just gonna work on that right shoulder, and then I'll take care of that left shoulder. We now have this device, it's the body blade. The blades just oscillate more or less, right? So this is the idea. You want the blades to be oscillating in the same capacity on each side, right? And this comes from shoulder, right? So this is a shoulder stability thing. We're gonna go for time on this, right? So we're gonna go for 20 seconds, scoop the shoulder back, keep the arm long, and then all we're gonna do 2 different directions. So we got the jab here, right? And then we got the door knocker right here, and then right here. Door knocker's right there.
Okay.
Right, and actually, I got this wrong with my foot, right? So hips are on, ribs are down, and I'm doing this, right? So notice I'm not moving from my elbow. This is purely a shoulder thing here, right? So here and here, we're gonna go 20 seconds.
Okay. On the right arm?
Yep.
Okay.
Good. So from here now, I want you to cue to use this hip. So squeeze your glute here.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to bring your chest forward, and I want you to bring your ribs down. Good. From here now, I want you to push out into my fingers. So don't suck in, push out. Good. Keep that on right there. So keep this position, keep your shoulder back, and we're on for 20 seconds. Go. Good. Keep reaching back. Keep this left hand out here. Stay long here. Good. Keep pushing it. 5, 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Good job. Okay, catch a recovery breath. We're gonna go right into this 90-90 right here. Okay, so right here, good. Shoulder stays in. Scoop it down here. Good. And we're gonna go right there. Good. Yep, on you, 20 seconds. You're gonna try to make it as big as you can. Reach out long here.
Oops,
Yep. No, you're good, you're good. Good, now push out. Good. 10 more seconds. Good, try to get the blades going a little bit more. Good. 5, 3, 2, 1, let it go. Good.
That was definitely hard.
Yeah, right? So you can tell, right, how much that really works on those small muscles in your shoulder, really rotator cuff, right? We're also working on all those kind of global, so we're kind of connecting the chain here with the shoulder, right? We'll do one more set here.
Okay.
Okay, so keep pushing, 10 seconds. Good, yep. All right, so that's one shoulder stability exercise I like. Now we're gonna come back on the table, we're gonna hit that left side.
Damn, those are hard.
All right, you feel it, huh?
I have very specific shoulder strength.
Mm-hmm.
It's not...
We're gonna work on this side, and then we're gonna do that one more time. And we're actually gonna do both sides. I wanna slap the machine on you, and you're gonna feel how much of a difference that is, right?
Okay.
So you were able to activate here. Now when we have the machine on, it's gonna feel completely different. You're gonna
Okay.
feel like, wow, like it's harder, but it's easier at the same time, which is gonna be interesting.
Okay.
So we're gonna work on biceps. Right, so this is a pulling muscle, and especially when you're talking about here and you're trying to pull yourself up, this is a muscle you're commonly going to be using, right? This is your subscapularis, and it's really in the pit. Let it go. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to pull you down. What I want you to do is I want you to give me a little resistance pushing up into my hand. Okay, hang on. Okay, here. Okay, a little push. 20%. There we go. Yep, just keep it steady. 3, 2, 1. Flex. All right, now we're gonna do the other side. You ready? Come on over here. Let me know when you feel a little pressure on the shoulder.
Anyone ever cry from this one?
No.
No.
My swimmers love it. They're the ones who need it the most.
It better not be the first
Is it pretty
intense? Dusty?
Yeah. I think sometimes my allergies are kicking.
Yeah, I think it's the airflow is some of that pollen.
Yep, let it go. Yep. Now I get less restriction on this side. When I was doing the other side, it was like here and I was getting stuck until we started getting to a couple of them. This one here is a little bit more tame. That's good.
It does hurt less.
Yeah. I'm going to slap some tape on here,
Okay.
and then we're going to go to the exercise portion of stuff. Okay? I'm going to have you sit up. Look away.
That would be unfortunate.
Kissing your eyes.
Help me sleep better at night, I guess. You like juggling? Or?
Do what?
You like juggling?
That's actually another cool toy that I have that I never really get to make good use of.
Really?
They're weighted steel
No.
clubs.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so you can do like lots of stuff. You can do like trunk stabilization with it.
Yeah.
You can do like shoulder mobility stuff with it, right?
Juggle training.
Juggle training, right? All that. So it should feel like the tape is tugging on your skin. Really what we're doing here is the tape is lifting your skin so we increase the space that we can help flush out the inflammation. That's the idea here,
Okay.
right? And then for here, we're gonna do a little shoulder stability taping. And this is just gonna cue you to keep shoulder in good position.
Okay.
Right, so we're gonna start out and then we're gonna go hand behind here. Cool, all right, so the idea here, right, just to cue good shoulder position, right? So anytime, this tape is doing nothing more than giving you feedback, right? So whenever you start to really feel the tape stretch out, right, that's sending the signal to your brain, say, hey, your shoulder's in a bad position, right? So we put the tape on with shoulder in a good position. Now anytime shoulder's in a bad position, like try and slouch forward and you'll just kind of feel that tape tug on your skin. That's giving you feedback, hey, fix your shoulder, right? And then even when you're kind of climbing, it might be pretty intense and you might not really notice it, right? But it's still giving you that feedback, right? So that's the idea here.
Cool.
Okay, so we're gonna do some shoulder stability stuff, and then hopefully we can attack the hamstring before the end of our session,
Good. Cool.
Yeah. Cool, so we're gonna do the same two exercises. Now we're just gonna slap these electrodes on. So again, these electrodes are going to connect to the machine there, and the machine is going to send signals to get these muscles really going. So we're going to fatigue out a little bit quicker because we're under more strain, but in theory we're getting more activation to the muscles, which is really important here.
And then before you turn on clear.
Alright. Perfect. Alright.
And then same workout, yeah?
Same two exercises. So it should be tolerable, but it shouldn't be unbearable, right? And then we're going to be under load too, so it's going to be a little different as well.
Right.
So we're going to start here. We're going to go 25 seconds on each side with those two exercises. Okay, keep that right hip on, good through down. Good. Push up, push, 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 push. Good. 3, 2, 1. Good. Let it go. You okay?
Yeah.
Good, yep, right here. Good, keep that shoulder in here. Good, yep, time's on you. Here, go. Good, keep that right hip. Good, yep, push out, push, push, push. Good, there you go. 3, 2, 1, good, let it go. Good job. Little burner?
Yeah.
Big burner.
Yeah, little, what?
Back, good, right there, good. Keep pulling that shoulder in the socket. 2, 1, let it go. Good job.
It's really funny just how actually difficult it is.
Yeah. Like, well, all I'm doing is just moving this damn blade. What the hell?
I can do like really heavy pull-ups, and then I swing this thing.
You do this thing, right? Yeah. 5, 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Good. 2, 1. Let it go. Good. Nice work. job on that. We're gonna do what's called controlled articular rotation. So for this, we're gonna stand nice and tall. All we're doing is we're gonna go one hand at a time, big circles, right? So palm is facing me. Once I get to 12 o'clock, I'm gonna turn out and then come back down, right? So I wanna generate the motion from my shoulder is what I'm thinking. So pulling shoulder into the socket, I'm gonna rotate up, big rotation, scoop it out, and then come back down. I want you to go 3 times in each direction. So 3 forward and 3 backward, okay? Good. Let's generate all the motion from that shoulder while pulling that shoulder into the socket. Good. Really big range of motion here. Good. That's where you want to be. Good. Reach long, reach long, reach long. Good. Good. Nice, let it go.
Pretty tired.
Hip adductors, aka the growing muscles, right? So this is called a three-way hip stretch because we're taking 3 positions, right? So position 1 is going to be right here. Position 2, we're going to go out at a 45. Position 3, we're going to come as close to a 90 as we can, but we want to make sure, most importantly, that we maintain our hip position the whole time, right? So if I'm here or if I'm here, I'm not letting my hips turn out. I'm not losing the chain at all, right? So, right? First things first, we're going to start in this position. Hips are going to be on. Naturally, in this position, our hips have a tendency to want to do this, right? So we got to oppose that via muscle synergy. So we're going to use our glute right here. I'm squeezing my glute, and what that does is it scoops my hips, right? And it gets my hips in more of a neutral alignment, right? So on top of that, I'm getting a little quad action here. So I feel a little stretch in my quad, a little burn there from my hip activation, right? So from here, I'm going to rock 3 times in each direction, right? So 1, right? And as I come forward into this lunge, right, I want to make sure that I'm not compensating by arching into my low back, right? That's going to yank on my low back and I'm compressing that. Don't want that, right? So that's why I always cue you to say, hey, ribs down, right? So ribs down, everything in alignment here, come into a lunge, feel the stretch here, right? So 3 in that direction, then we come out to a 45. When we come out to a 45, make sure that our hips don't turn as well, right? So our hips should always stay in this kind of perpendicular position, right? So right here, and I'm gonna rock, and I'm just gonna push my knee in the direction of my big toe, right? So hips stay on, hips are active, and now when I rock, instead of being pure quad, now I'm starting to go to the inside of my groin here, right? So again, hips are on, scooping the hips 3 times in this direction with whatever range I have, right? Make sure that when I come here, my back heel doesn't just collapse in either, right? So making sure that back toe stays spiked. And then third one, we go into a 90-90, staying nice and neutral, and just think of it like you're trying to shimmy yourself down a narrow alleyway, right? So coming here and back. And I like to go 1 hand on belly and then the back of my palm on my back so I can feel equal engagement and I know I'm not arching into my low back, right? So 3 here, 3 here, 3 here. Try that out while I'm cleaning this table up, and really target the hip and the groin for these. And once you hit that 3, swing that left foot out to a 45. The knee stays in alignment with your second and third toe, and your shin, should be relatively vertical in that starting position. If knee starts going over toe, that's okay, right? But the emphasis is going to be on this right side. So I want you to squeeze this right glute, and that's when you should start to kind of feel it on the inside here.
Okay.
Good, ribs down, good, and we're just gonna cue this position here.
Yeah.
Good, there we go, and then come back. Good. There we go.
So when I'm like stretching, like doing normal stretches and stuff, is there like a good way, like I've heard some people where they like do a few seconds where they're like squeezing the muscle that they're stretching, or like, do you know certain numbers with that?
Yeah, so if you're doing like a static stretch where like, for instance, if your hamstrings were just like really tight and it's a mobility issue, right? You want to typically shoot for like 30, 45-ish seconds of a hold, upwards to anywhere of like a minute per side. If it's just like a quick mobility thing, right? So like kind of like a mobility hack, right, is called, they call it P&F. stretching, which is proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. So just basically facilitating. So for instance, probably won't be looking at this on camera, but if I'm here, right, and this is called a sleeper stretch. So this is really good for that, the one where I was digging in the pit, right? This is another kind of supplementary one you can use, right? So for instance, if I come down here, right, and I'm like, okay, like this is kind of where, for me, it starts to get limited. Ideally, I should be able to touch my palm down here. So what can I do, right? I hold this position, I find my end range, and then what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna push my palm into my hand. So I'm giving resistance in this direction. So I find that end range, I push, I'm gonna hold it for about 6 seconds, 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna let it go, and now I get a little more range, right? 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna let it go. Now I get a little bit more range.
So is a lot of it like the body's capable of going farther? It's just the brain being like, oh snap.
Absolutely.
Be careful, be careful.
Yeah, the brain's the governor, right? And basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to override the nervous system, right? So maybe things are too tense, right? They call it sympathetic, which is our fight and flight, right? Fight, flight, freeze is kind of really what it is, right? And then we have our parasympathetic, which is kind of rest and digest and all that, right? So it's kind of a modulation between balancing the two, right? So if we have like a heavy pull day or we're doing a lot of things, a lot of those muscles that we're using are really active right now, and they're kind of overriding the muscle synergy. So maybe we're tight on the back and loose in the front. So with things like P&F stretching, right, you can really kind of rebalance the system through these types of techniques.
Just kind of reminds it like, it's okay right now.
Yeah. Especially if there's no injury involved. It's like, why are you so tight, bro? You know, like loosen up.
It does make sense where the body would kind of like
guard.
It's like an emergency thing where it's like,
exactly. Yeah, it's just the protective mechanism that our body has.
Right.
Yeah.
Which also, like, I guess in some cases won't be a protective measure. Like,
it could hinder you,
right?
It's like, oh gosh, like there's nothing wrong, like why can't I just use it? So knowing and understanding that as well too, right? So that's the 3-way hip stretch. That's great for growing. And then I'm going to show you a hamstring one. We're just going to hop on the table real quick. What you're going to do is you're going to cradle your thigh in between your fingers like that and get as close to the knee as you can. And then from here, you got the right idea. You're going to pull the thigh in, and then you're just going to cycle that knee. So you're going to straighten up here. Good, and try to kick that knee as straight as you can, and I want you to kick through your heel, right? So keep your toes up and then kick through your heel and try to get that knee as straight as you can. You'll feel a big stretch here. You feel it already?
Yeah.
Yep, and then come back down. Yep, and then cycle again. Right, and then let that thigh actually relax into your hands. Right, so let that thigh come down. Right here. Good. Yep, right there. And try to pull it straight as you can. Ooh, yeah, good. And back down. And we're gonna go for 7 on these, and then right after this, we're gonna go into glute bridges. Good, and then let that knee come down a little bit more. Good. Yep.
So it's really just holding it.
Yep.
That position.
All right, last one. Isometric good morning. This one, we're going to have our feet under our hips, right? The idea here is we want to be able to hinge forward, right, with soft knees, right? So notice my back angle here. It's not about reaching down and touching your toes. It's actually more about kind of posterior chain lengthening, right? So we already know, right, based off of that supine hamstring stretch that we just did, right? We're pretty tight in the hamstring, so I want to use this to address it even more. And we're going to hold this for a minute on each side, right? So for this, feet under our hips. We're going to hinge backwards, push our knees back, and then rotate our thighs out. That's the idea here, right? Naturally, as you push your knees back, you want to cave in, and this is a bad position for your hips and for your knees to be in. So we want to rotate thighs out as we push knees back, and then we should be feeling a stretch on this whole back side. Okay, right there, hinge forward. Good, now push the knees back and rotate the thighs out at the same time. Good, yeah, just focus on just deep breathing here. Yep, and then even more so, I want you to just reach the hands straight back. Good. Good, rip her down. Good. Knees back, keep rotating the thighs out. Did you feel that on the back side the whole time? Yeah. So those two right there, right?
All up here.
Yeah. So working on the isometric good mornings, right? 3 sets of a minute. The hamstring stuff, right? You can cycle through that. This is good for kind of pre-workout, pre-warm-up, just getting the muscles worked out, lengthened out. Right?
You think that would be good to like, I guess like warm-ups for doing heel hooks?
Yeah, definitely. Right? So making sure we're able, like we don't have to get it all the way straight, but make sure we get a little bit more mobility out of that. So incorporating this one with the 3-way hip stretch.
Yeah.
Those are 2 that you should be doing like
Okay.
every pre-workout,
Okay.
right? Just kind of real easy, real quick.
Yeah.
It'll take you under 5 minutes to do, right? And then you'll be able to get more length out of it, a little more reach out of it.
I guess it's kind of just like what you did on the ground with creating force, like
Yeah.
doing that prior to getting on the wall.
Yeah,
And doing
yeah.
that, like making the body know, okay, it's okay that we're doing a heel hook super high like that.
Yeah, totally. You should have that range of motion too.
Right,
So.
right.
So right here, come seated towards the edge. Good. Now all we're doing is we're kicking through our heel as hard as we can, and we're just gonna raise that leg straight. Yep. So right here. Good. Yep. So now we're not slouched. Good.
Straight both
Nope.
sides.
One's gonna be straight, and then this one we're just gonna raise up. We want to make this leg even with this thigh. Yeah, man. Right, so try as hard as you can. Try to get it even. Good. Now, don't slouch. So you're gonna want to do 1 of 2 things. You're either gonna want to slouch in your low back to compensate, or you're gonna want to lean back.
Okay.
So try lean back. Oh wow! Now it's even,
Oh,
right? See,
flexible.
right.
Oh, look how much exercise you can-
So even more so with this exercise, you're not just working on quad strength, you're working on hamstring flexibility, right? Because as you raise the leg up, you're getting more length on the hamstring, right? So this is another great one for both kind of the muscle synergy, the mobility and stability component here,
Okay.
right? So for this one, you can do like 3 sets of 45 seconds on each side.
And then how often you think?
As frequent as you can.
Okay.
Like once,
like
twice.
it wouldn't be bad to do
No,
it multiple
1, 2, 3 times a day. This is such a low load that you're not going to overload the nervous system,
Okay.
right? And you'll recover really quick from these. It's going to suck starting out. You're like, oh god, that's so sore.
Yeah.
But you're going to notice in time your endurance is going to build. You're like, oh gosh, those 45 seconds. I had to like. It's okay to take breaks with the time running too. That's another thing, right? So say you start the clock and you're like in 20 seconds, like, oh god, I need a break. Just let the clock run. Get back into it at 30 seconds if you need to, right? And then finish it out, right? And the more you do it, the less you're going to have to take breaks, and then you can start building the time.
Okay.
Once you start hitting that 1 minute threshold, that's usually like where I notice you have like athletes or clients still have enough endurance to move into more dynamic or more loaded movement.
More like strenuous.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But I like to use that kind of 45 second to 1 minute baseline as like, okay, you have functional capacity now, let's upload a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah!
That's what you gotta.
You can see it!
That's what you gotta work on. Buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
Dang, okay. Well, that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. This is way cool.
Coming in, yeah, flex. I just wanna win, yeah. LABB, who we running with, yeah. 2, 2, 3, 3, I want you again. State your name. Big dope on flame. I just switched the lanes. Damn, he did it again. I just flipped the pen.